All right, welcome Algebra 2 Pre-Calc. Let's do this. So this is page 2 of lesson 38. So just to review back to what we learned from last week, here let's just zoom in on this, and if you have your notes, that'd be great. So here we talked about that idea of the discriminant, right? So if you have the quadratic formula, the discriminant b squared minus 4ac, it identifies the types of solutions that will occur. So if you have a discriminant where this b squared minus 4ac is greater than 0, we say that there are two real solutions. If we say that it's equal to 0, we say there's one real solution. And here, if we have it less than 0, then we say that there are two complex solutions. Okay? If you feel like you don't have this in your notes, it would be really good that you write this down. And what does it mean about the graph? Like if we look over here, if you were to have two real solutions, that means the graph has to hit at 2 points over here on the x-axis. Over here, if it equals 0, then it hits at 1 point on the x-axis, and if it's less than 0, it does not intersect the x-axis, but you'll have two complex solutions, and a complex solution will have that value of I in there. Okay, so let's take a look at this page over here. Let's take a look at number 6. Here it says, consider the equation 3x plus x squared equals negative 7. It's saying, what does the value of the discriminant tell us about the number of solutions to this equation? So the idea is, first, what we want to do is that if we have this problem here, right? Let me get this ready. Okie dokie. So let's say if we have this problem, 3x plus x squared equals negative 7, we're trying to find the discriminant. And remember, the discriminant is that b squared minus 4ac. So the first move we really want to do is make sure that you have 0 on one side. So if you have this 3x plus x squared equals negative 7, how do you get 0 on one side? What are we going to do? We do plus 7, right? And now we have 3x plus, and notice you can't combine these terms, so plus x squared plus 7 equals 0. But then what do we want to do? We want to put this into standard form. And if you forgot what standard form looks like, it should just look like some ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay? So then how do we put this in that form? Notice the x squared goes first, then the 3x, and then the plus 7. Okay? Equals 0. Now we have it in standard form. And notice when we want to put this into the quadratic formula, what is your a, what is your b, what is your c, right? What is your a over here? It's 1. What is your b over here? It's 3, and your c here is 7. Okay? Now it says calculate the discriminant, right? Let's read the problem again. It says, what does the value of this discriminant tell us about the number of solutions to this equation? So if we have b squared minus 4ac, well, let's take a look. What is your b squared? It would be 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7. Okay? So, do what you need to do. Use your calculator or use mental math. Here, what is 3 squared? This is 9 minus 28. So now here, because 4 times 1 is 4, 4 times 7 is 28. What is 9 minus 28? That is negative 19. So here, we know that the discriminant is negative 19. Now, the question is, what does this negative 19 tell us about the solutions to this equation? And just to look back over here, notice our discriminant is negative 19, and negative 19 is less than 0. So we will have two complex solutions. Okay? What do you know about the graph of this? The graph. What's going to happen for the graph of this equation? It will not intersect the x-axis. It could look like this, or it could look something like this. We don't know, but for a fact, it's not going to hit the x-axis. So the graph it will not intersect the x-axis because b squared minus 4ac is less than 0. Okie dokie. Now, what is it asking us? It's saying solve the equation. So first, same idea. We're going to put this into standard form, and we already did that, right? So what is the standard form for this? It's x squared plus 3x plus 7. And here, what is your a, what is your b, what is your c? This is 1, 3, and 7. Now, what do we need to do to actually solve this? Can we factor? Question mark? Can we factor this? What two numbers when you multiply give you 7, but when you add give you 3? Notice you only have 7 and 1, or negative 7 and negative 1. But this equals 8, and this equals negative 8 when you add them. So to factor it is not possible using real numbers. So if you can't factor it, what do you need to use? You need to use the quadratic formula. So here, let's do it right over here. X equals, and try and write it down before I do. Let's see if you remember what the quadratic formula is, right? Pause the video. Here, it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So here, you have to plug in a, b, and c into here. So that's what I'd like you to do right now. Pause the video and try and do this by yourself, okay? Let's take a look here. So here, if you were to plug everything in, so you have negative, and I'll just do this step by step, parentheses, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So I'll just get my parentheses ready. So squared minus 4 over 2 parentheses a. Okay, so here b goes here, right? So this is a 3. This is 3 squared minus 4 times 1 times 7, and there's a 1 here. But we already, now this part is pretty much done, because here this is negative 3 plus or minus the square root of, this you already did. You already calculated what this is. This is the discriminant. This b squared minus 4ac, from, remember this part over here? We already calculated this part of b squared minus 4ac. It's what? You get what? 9 minus 28. But we already did that. 9 minus 28 is negative 19. So this is over 2. That equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 19 over 2. Okay? Now, how do you continue from here? Notice that, okay, so for this part over here, here, you have to remember this little trick that, my bad, my camera angle, I'm messing up a little bit. You have to remember that I is equal to the square root of minus 1. So the idea is, if I said what's the square root of 25, you just say 5. But if I say what's the square root of negative 25, it's not 5 or negative 5. But what you could do is, you could say it's equal to the square root of 25 times the square root of minus 1. And what's the square root of 25? It's 5. And what's the square root of minus 1? The square root of minus 1 is I. And that's what you could do over here. You could know that this is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 19i over 2. But then that's also equal to, once you get to this point, we need to do a split. So we need to do x equals negative 3 plus square root of 19i over 2. X is equal to negative 3 minus square root 19i over 2. And that's it. Okay? Now, very quickly, what does, let's see. What does this number represent? If I were to, like, this is the original equation, right? It looks very weird. But if I were to do this, if I were to take, you see this value here, if I were were to plug it into here, if I were to say, you know, check, what is negative 3 plus square root 19i over 2, and what am I going to do with it? I'm going to square it plus 3 times negative square root, negative 3 plus square root 19i over 2 plus 7. What does it equal? If you actually do this computation, it does equal 0. But that'll be for some other day, or that's actually for pre-calc. We don't need to do that right now. But okay, good job. What I want you to do is, knowing this from this part, what I'd like you to do is try and do these questions over here on the next page, on page 3. So try and do question 8 and question 9, and in the next video, I'll actually show you step by step how to do these problems. Okay, enjoy.